The A-Team won't be seen tonight, so we can bring you a very special episode of The Gen X Files. Welcome to The Gen X Files. I'm Jim.
I'm Adam.
And today's show is all about
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Take yourself back to 1981. A gold bar was found in Mexico City, subsequently confirmed as made of material appropriated during the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire.
Did Indiana Jones
and
find
presumably
it?
abandoned by the Spanish at the time of in 1520. No, I don't believe it was
Because he was an archaeologist.
Yes. There was a ceremonial decorated bronze Celtic agri helmet that was from 350 BC that was found in 1981 in a cave in southern France.
Did Indiana Jones find it?
No.
Because he was an archaeologist.
And Ain Ghazal, it was a city from 8,000, 9,000 BC, was discovered in Jordan just outside of a construction site where they're building a highway.
Crazy.
Yeah. Definitely was not Indiana Jones because he was not working for the construction company at the time.
And his off time. Teachers have to take jobs during summers, Adam.
But
sometimes
hey, man,
he did.
The point is that archaeology happens.
Yeah.
And it's still happening. Yes, everywhere. But June 12th, 1981, archaeologists found their hero in Indiana Jones when Raiders of the Lost Ark was released and debuted at number 1.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, now, of course, but it actually fell out of the number 1 spot for 5 weeks after that. It wasn't until the 6th weekend when it regained number 1 and then stayed at number 1 for 9 weeks.
It's so crazy how things worked back then.
It was weird because it like other movies would come out and people were like, yeah, but then they go back to Raiders because it's like, oh, this is much more.
And plus the word of mouth on that was insane.
Yeah.
I remember, I wasn't super excited to see it. I didn't know very much about it. No, because the advertisements on TV and movie trailers weren't super great back then. They were just kind of like,
that makes sense.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. See a man search for a lost ark.
That's good.
And it's like,
It's like, wait, why do I want to see this?
So it's just, I was like, I don't know. And so my mom, we went to the little 2 theater next to Montgomery Ward's.
Where you saw E.T.
Yeah, I saw a lot of movies there. And yeah, it blew me away. And my mom loved it because she was a
huge fan.
Fans of the show. Now my mom was a fan of the serials.
Serials, yeah.
And she just loved that movie. It was just, she was giddy, and so was I. I mean, because it was just totally unexpected.
Yeah. It was so much fun from the very beginning. And it definitely, that was true for everyone because it stayed in the top 10 for 40 weeks.
Oh, yeah. I went
40 weeks.
Yeah.
To the point even where they officially pulled it out of theaters, and it was still playing in some theaters. It was the highest grossing movie of 1981 with almost $354 million worldwide.
That's $81.
$81 in
that translates to $700 billion in 2021.
Yeah, $81. Yeah, it's a lot. Actually, I think it is just shy of $1 billion, if I remember correctly.
Probably.
Now, granted, that doesn't also include all the VHS stuff, which we will talk about much later.
Sure.
But which was huge. But yeah, so George Lucas was also a fan of serials, much like your mother. Buck Rogers and Zorro's Fighting Legion and Spy Smasher, which I don't know why they've never.
Hey, I heard you mention Buck Rogers.
Yeah, Buck Rogers, yeah.
It's Rhythm of Deer in here. Big fan of the show. Love the show. Just want to say, I'm really happy you're doing Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
So get podcasting or get long lasting.
All right.
Whatever.
Thanks, Wilma. That was great.
I think she moved in.
Yeah. She lives under your bed. It's weird. So he wanted to create an adventure serial, and he called it Indiana Smith.
Yeah. They both loved the serial, and that's something that they bonded on. And I think because he, not only Buck Rogers, but Zorro was another one. And I think that's where he got the whip. Because I'm pretty sure Zorro was like whip and sword.
Whip and sword, yeah. That makes sense. So he named the Indiana Smith after
so bad.
His dog.
Yeah.
An Alaskan Malamute.
Mm-hmm. The Indiana, the giant Alaskan Malamute, was also the inspiration for Chewbacca.
Nice. Well, write what you know, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
if it's a giant dog, then you use it. At the same time, Lucas was also trying to make a Flash Gordon movie.
Yeah.
He tried really hard, and unfortunately, that never happened. He couldn't get the rights to it, so he ended up making Star Wars instead.
Unfortunately.
Seems like a good choice.
Yeah, I think the trade-off, I'll take it.
But I'm sure someone in the Flash Gordon estate probably is like, wow, we made a mistake.
Yeah. Have you seen the Flash Gordon movie around the time? They sold the rights to the wrong horse, baby.
So Lucas, he shared this idea with Philip Kaufman, a very good director.
Oh, yeah.
A good friend of his. Kaufman suggested using the Ark as a focus point. He actually gave quite a bit to the story.
Yeah.
Because at first, Lucas made him a womanizer, and like he was this alcoholic, and like Indiana Smith was just not a very likable person.
But that was of the time, too.
Yeah.
I mean, the 70s was all about the anti-hero. And,
yeah.
It's like the cool thing is, with those guys, they always brought that sensibility, that they learned in coming up as indies in the 70s. They brought that to their movies, which made them a lot more realistic and a lot more gritty.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same with the E.T. and the whole cinema verite thing.
Exactly.
It was just a hallmark of how it was like everything needs to be more natural and more organic and real.
It makes the fantastical, you can really digest all this fantastical stuff when it's grounded in these really relatable, real characters.
Yeah. Indiana Jones he's tired a lot.
He's a human being.
He just is like, Which was then, actually, I was thinking about this yesterday, was that it's like the reason we have like Die Hard is because of Indiana Jones.
100%.
Like, we wouldn't have had that hero if it wasn't for him showing how real it was when you get punched and how much it hurts.
Yeah, no, I mean, the hero was not allowed to show weakness,
Yeah.
He was John Wayne, and he punched you out if you looked at him funny.
Kaufman actually suggested using the Ark as a focus point. He had heard about it from his dentist when he was a child. I don't know if it was like the rambling dentist or something, but
dentist.
He thought it'd be cool to play off of Hitler's obsession with the occult.
Well, so the dentist told him about Hitler's
but it was when Philip Kaufman was a kid.
Was he like proselytizing, or was he just telling like
I don't know. I don't know if it was him just rambling because he's a dentist and he has an open mic to whoever's sitting there. But
using the gas.
But that's where Philip Kaufman said he first got the idea. It was from his dentist. Lucas really wanted Kaufman to direct it, but he was obligated to work on The Outlaw Josie Wales, and that is when
great movie.
A great movie. But it was around 1975, and that was when Lucas then focused on Star Wars, and he shelved because he actually had this idea for Indiana Smith after American Graffiti in 1973, but he shelved it and he worked on Star Wars, and it was he put all his time and effort into Star Wars. We all know how that came out.
Flopped. Nobody ever heard from him.
I don't even
again.
know what it is. I don't
Star
know
what?
So when that was coming out, Lucas took Spielberg, his good friend, to Hawaii and said, look, I'm afraid the movie's going to flop and that it's going to be bad and I want to deal with it, so I'm going to go spend some time in Hawaii. And
let's go get drunk, baby.
Yeah, let's get as much time in Honolulu as possible. While he was there, he told Spielberg about the Indiana Smith story, and Spielberg loved it.
Except for the name.
He hated the name.
Rightly so.
100% true.
Indiana Smith just doesn't have the ring to it.
It's weird. It's like alternate universe Indiana Jones. It's super weird. Spielberg actually wanted to direct a James Bond movie at the time.
Really?
But he did not have the chance, and so he told Lucas, like, let's work on this. Let's make this happen.
Interesting.
So they brought in Lawrence Kasdan, who was very young.
Ooh.
And at the time was writing, I believe he was working on Empire at the time.
Nice.
But he'd only been, when he started working on the script for Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark, he'd only been professionally screenwriting for a month.
Could you imagine? You just come to L.A. for a month.
Yeah.
And then the two hugest mega producing director superstars are like, hey,
you're real good.
Why don't you write this movie that's going to last for the next 50 years?
Why not? So Lucas, after working on the script,
let me just say, it just goes to show you that back then people recognized talent and gave people shots. You know what I mean? That kid got a shot because he was good. It wasn't like, his dad
Right.
Randy Kasdan, called in a favor or whatever. It's just cool that these guys, because I think, Spielberg conned his way into the gig, getting a office on Universal when he didn't have one. So I think those guys did give people shots, and I think that's, more people should do that, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it was back in the day when Hollywood, people felt better like helping someone in Hollywood because it was like
threatened.
They're my protege, and now it's just super competition.
Mentee mentor, One of Spielberg's first mentors was Richard Donner.
Oh yeah, Dick Donner.
And that guy again. Everybody but me, all of my friends, in some time or another worked for Dick Donner, and every single one of them would say nothing but amazing things about him. I got to know him a little bit, but he was another guy that was just like, "What can you do, kid?
Yeah.
Let me read your script, kid. And he would give, all right, try rewriting this script. We'll give you 10 grand. It's like he did that to my friend. He gave him money to write, and it's like you give them shots because they do good work and they earned it. And I would hope that there's still that around today, but
it's hard to say if that still is the case.
Sure.
So they budgeted the movie out at about $20 million, and George Lucas originally wanted to pay for it himself.
Wow.
But he didn't have $20 million.
Not yet.
No. At this point, he did not, and not enough anyway to be able to make them.
That's still such a small amount of money.
It's crazy to think that. I mean,
it was amazing, huge amount of money back then, but like they're spending, $300, $400, $500, $600 million on movies.
I'm pretty sure the last Indiana Jones movie was like a $200 million.
Sure, and this was all practical, man. This is all like real trucks and blowing up.
So George Lucas, in true George Lucas fashion, went to the studios and demanded that they provide the budget, have no creative input, and allow him to retain control of the licensing and any sequels.
Lucas and the licensing. That's why that's why he's a billionaire, because that was the smartest thing he ever did, was retain the licensing rights to Star Wars and the licensing rights to Indiana Jones, because he realized, and I think he turned Spielberg onto that as well. Yeah, that's where the money is, man. I mean, everybody's
the show is great. It's the ancillary that'll make
lunch boxes and the toys and the this and the that.
So nobody wanted to make this because they were like, "You're crazy. This is a lot." Until Paramount came in, and Paramount was like, "Okay, like we'll do this. We'll make money." Although they were a little worried about Steven Spielberg,
really,
because at that point Spielberg had a series of movies that went over budget,
Jaws,
and ran long.
Yep.
And Jaws in 1941, they were kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, he wasn't the untouchable.
Golden
he god that he is today.
I mean, his movies obviously made money.
Yeah, but I mean, 1941 was a big surprise. That
should have been a big hit.
It was a mess, but it was a fun mess. I mean, you definitely should see it. But yeah, I mean, he wasn't in the position. It wasn't like he was coming off of E.T., and it wasn't in Star Wars. Okay, they got.
I mean, and honestly, his real big hit, the previous. I mean, Close Encounters was big, but Jaws was huge.
Oh yeah,
and that was 5 years ago. I mean, so it's like studios are all about now, and
right.
like, what can you do for me lately? To quote Eddie Murphy.
But those old timey dudes always had the right.
They definitely understood that sometimes you got to take that chance.
Yep.
So they did. Paramount said okay, but Paramount did require Frank Marshall to be put on to the movie. He was a producer, and they said, okay, Frank, you're here literally to make sure we stay on budget.
So he was the Marshall of the production.
Oh Lord. The dad jokes. It's great. So Frank Marshall said very specifically, okay, we got to stay on budget. Paramount gave them an 85-day production budget.
Wow.
And the three of them agreed. Frank Marshall and George Lucas and Steven Spielberg said, we're going to do this in 73 days.
Nice.
And they did. They did finish it in 73
Smart
days.
move, because it's also, they could have been, Lucas demanded, he had the clout to demand stuff because Star Wars was a juggernaut, especially in 1980. I mean, he proved himself.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I mean, good for them, because they could have been dicks. And they could have just been, they could have Brett Ratnered it, and got the strippers and the coke. But no, they wanted to prove that they could get this done. They loved this. It was a passion project, especially for Lucas. I mean, they wanted to make this a hit.
Yeah, they absolutely needed to. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about casting.
Ooh. All right, we are back. Let's talk about casting.
Yeah, let's talk about casting. Because although Harrison Ford is obviously Indiana Jones,
wait, what?
We all know this, and it's hard. Although other people have played the other people have played the character, it'd be tough to change. To see somebody else playing that part.
No, not in the movie. I mean, the Young Indiana Jones series was fun, and I forget the name of the actor that played it. He's the guy that played Powder. So Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah.
Oh, Sean Patrick Flannery. He was fine, but that was a fun series, a prequel series, and even Harrison Ford appeared in that as himself with the eye patch. He was grizzled old, Yeah. But yeah, I mean that was a fun thing, but. They were talking about rebooting it with Chris Pratt or something. And no, I'm sorry. I mean, we saw what happened with the Han Solo movie. As much as that kid was doing the best he could do, and he was fine, it just Harrison Ford is these roles.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that I mean, personally, my opinion is that I feel like it's something that could be done much like in the James Bond kind of thing, but this still doesn't really lend itself to it.
No.
Not like James Bond, where it's like, hey, he could easily be, quote unquote replaced. But
he's played the character for 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
But he was not their first choice.
No.
There were some really interesting choices.
Oh, yeah. There was Bill Murray, Nick Nolte, Steve Martin, Chevy Chase, Tim Matheson, Nick Mancuso, Peter Coyote, Mr. Jingle Keys, Jack Nicholson, Jeff Bridges, John Shea, and Sam Elliott, Mr. Mustache. But there was also Mark Harmon, Michael Biehn, Bruce Boxleitner, Don Johnson, and even Mr. David Hasselhoff.
Oh, wow, really? Oh, that would have been weird. That would have been weird.
Hooked on a feeling.
It was Jeff Bridges. I think Jeff Bridges and Tom Selleck were actually the two that they were most interested in.
Yes. Tom Selleck being the top.
Yeah, Tom Selleck was their number one choice. They wanted to offer the part to him, but he had just shot the pilot for Magnum P.I.
Yeah.
And there was a time period where he couldn't take other things, and there was 10 days left, and so they went to him. Lucas and Spielberg went to him and said, can you go to CBS and ask them to be released from your contract?
Yeah, because they didn't greenlight the show yet.
No, they in fact, there's thought that they weren't going to greenlight the show because the pilot wasn't tracking as well as they wanted to be.
And if you watch the pilot versus the show, it's so different.
Very different. Yeah. So when Lucas and Spielberg came to CBS and said, we need Tom Selleck, they go, no, we're going to make this Magnum P.I.
You want
show.
Him? Yeah. Well, then we're keeping him.
But we just greenlit it. And then he writes in the corner, okay, here we go. And so, unfortunately, Tom Selleck could not play the part.
He would have been so great.
He would have been fantastic.
He's the only other guy that I could really see. He is another guy that's just really handsome and likable.
Yeah,
and
he's so charming. Yeah, and it really seems like afterwards that he's a little bitter.
They did. He got over it, and he has a great sense of humor about it. And they did in I think it might have been the penultimate season of Magnum. They did this episode where he slowly was donning the jacket and the hat and the whip, and it was obvious that he was playing Indiana Jones. There's this mystery where this guy was creating these mysteries based on movies, but the whole time they're like, Treasure Sierra Madre, was it this other movie? They never guessed. That was the joke. It was really funny, and it was fun to finally see him donning the outfit.
Yeah, the ultimate irony of it is that because of the 1980 actor strike, Tom Selleck could have actually played the part because Magnum P.I. was delayed for 4 months.
Yeah. It's just sad. But, I think in the long run, I'm glad I got my Indy, and I'm glad I got my Magnum.
Yeah,
because
Magnum
lasted 8 seasons, was an amazing show. They even, ended it and then brought it back for an extra season because people were like, no, we're not done. We need more Magnum. He died.
No, wow.
In the last
spoiler
episode.
Oh, wow.
But because you don't know what happened in the real ending because they brought him back to life for a last season.
So Steven Spielberg wanted Harrison Ford. He saw him in Star Wars and he liked him and he said we should use him. And Lucas,
he's the perfect. You needed either of those guys because they were the perfect example of those type of movies. You needed a chiseled,
Totally.
Steely-eyed.
Lucas didn't want to use Harrison Ford because he had used him in Star Wars, and he was like, I don't want to, be seen like, it's the only actor I can work with.
He also had this weird thing about using the same actors. He didn't want to use Harrison Ford in Star Wars either, because he'd been in American Graffiti, so he didn't want him. It was just like, poor Harrison Ford. It's just like, I guess we'll give it to you, Harry.
Well,
you stick around long enough.
That was the other thing, is that he didn't. Lucas was like, well, they wanted the actor to agree to a 3-movie deal, and they didn't think Ford would do it.
Yeah,
and of course Ford was like, this sounds like
the
fun.
Coolest
Why wouldn't I do
ever?
This?
Yeah.
So he also negotiated a 7-figure salary, a percentage of the gross profits, and the option to rewrite his dialogue. So he came out pretty well in the end.
And he was one of the first actors to really take control of his career that way, where he had control over what he was doing. He made sure that he had a say in how he was portrayed, and that's kind of how he's always protected his image.
And he looked at the character as being a scholar first and adventurer second, which is, I believe, what led into the whole, I'm just tired a lot, and it's like, I just want to go back, get the thing, and go back.
But you see his in the character, you see his giddiness and his passion for knowledge and for his little bit of teaching, where he's just he's so into it, and when he's given the chance to go after these pieces of history, he doesn't see it as glory for himself. It's always, well, let's get it to the museum. People need to see this. It's history.
It belongs in a museum.
Yes. Let's talk about the casting of Marion, because she was an extremely important character. It didn't work without a good Marion.
No, and Marion, Karen Allen was not their first choice.
No, it's like they went through so many other actresses.
The main person they were considering was Deborah Winger.
Yeah.
Who couldn't do it.
They had Deborah Winger, Jane Seymour, Mary Steenburgen, Valerie Bertinelli, Sean Young, and Dee Wallace. Barbara Hershey. Dee Wallace, she ended up getting
she ended up working with Spielberg anyway.
E.T., so she got that.
When Karen Allen auditioned, the first thing Spielberg asked her was, how well do you spit?
She spits great. She is so awesome in that movie. She's just a tough... and it's also one of those things where she's not just the damsel in distress.
No.
She kicks ass too. They gave her some really cool... there are times where she's definitely got to be saved by Indy. But, for the most part, she can take care of herself.
She's tough. Her first introduction is drinking a large man under the table.
My God, they must have had 50 shots each.
It was crazy.
It's the altitude in
Nepal.
In Tibet, yes. It's easier to drink there, I guess.
But Karen Allen was great, and she actually, they improvised a lot of the movie. A lot of the dialogue was improvised. A lot of scenes were they had a loose set, which was odd because they actually storyboarded 80% of the movie.
Sure,
but it was the actual details were all improvised.
Yeah,
the whole with the girl writing "love you" or whatever on her eyelids. That was all improvised. I'm pretty sure the
so weird
misspelling Neolithic was improvised by Harrison Ford. But it was interesting. So Karen Allen has gone on record saying that they would sit down together and talk a lot. Her and Jonathan Rhys Davies and
Harrison Ford.
No. Harrison Ford was actually very private and actually very rarely talked about his character with anybody else.
Weird.
She said sometimes he would talk about stuff, but he was very private and very he kept in his head with his character.
Well, you got to look at it this way. He is the franchise. You know what I mean? It's like you're the star of a multi-million-dollar movie. So much is riding on you, your shoulders, your performance. Yeah. If you don't work, it doesn't matter how great Marion and Sala.
It doesn't matter because if Indiana Jones doesn't work, then it doesn't
nothing
work.
works. Yeah. But Sala too. What great casting!
Fantastic, Jonathan Rhys Davies, so good. They were actually trying to cast Danny DeVito in the part.
That would have been so. Because he would have, he's a great actor, and maybe he would have played it straight, but still, he doesn't seem like he could be Arabic or
Yeah.
Even though Jonathan, I don't know what Jonathan Rhys Davies
is not either.
No, he's not. He's an Englishman.
He's Welsh, I believe.
Welsh, yeah, and but still, he had the gravitas of Indy.
It would have been weird to see.
Hey, Indiana.
Rewatching it and thinking about Danny DeVito and the scenes where they're able to stare at each other and it's that
He'd
just
be
would not
on
work.
A chair. He'd just be like. You go first, eh?
It'd be him eye to eye with the monkey.
Yeah, it would. I don't know. I don't. I mean,
don't get me wrong. I love Danny.
Yeah, amazing.
But
I mean, he got to play the third banana in Jewel of the Nile, and
so great.
Those movies, which were really awesome.
Yeah. He couldn't do it anyway because of Taxi. He couldn't do it.
Well, good. I think Taxi was better off with him, and I think Raiders was better off with Jonathan
Rhys Davies. Yeah. So they went into production. The Paramount gave them 85 days. They finished it in 73.
It's amazing. So many stunts.
A really, I mean, they used, obviously a very quick production because there was a lot of long takes.
Yeah.
A lot of it's obvious they had to move things forward and keep things going.
It's so much more effective to let the action play out. Like if you look at the shots of the boulder coming, those hang.
Oh yeah,
for whatever and then when he slipped, which I think was a mistake, when the guy slipped and got up again.
Oh yeah,
when the ball was coming, which was an awesome mistake.
Yeah.
But that it doesn't cut, until he runs out of frame or whatever. It's like it's so much more dangerous when you see the guy running rather than cutting to his face and cutting to his feet and cutting to his jangly keys.
Over editing has ruined a lot of movies.
Yep. More so than effects, in my opinion.
Trust yourself as a director.
Yeah, there were so many fun things that were improvised too, like when Indy shoots the guy with the big star. That poor guy. I always feel horrible. Everybody knows the story, but I always feel so horrible for that guy because he trained for days and days for this big old fight scene between he and Indy, and he was probably like, "Mom, I've got this centerpiece fight with Indiana Jones, and it's going to be amazing. Oh, I'm so excited." And then the next day he comes to work and they're like, Tommy, we got some bad news for you, buddy.
Harry's got the runs.
What? He's just going to shoot you, okay? He's just going to shoot you. It's going to be funny.
Yeah. And it works. I mean, it works.
Oh, it's one of the best moments in the movie. And it defines... That movie is unexpected, I know it's funny to be like, oh, it's hilarious when he just shoots the guy dead, you know.
Yeah.
But it is done in like this cartoony. It's very Looney Tunesy.
Yeah.
It's not.
It
his
works
head
in the
explodes
context
or whatever.
Of the movie. Like
And his character just shows the world weariness of his character. His character isn't an action hero. He's a professor, an archaeologist.
Want to have a big fight with this guy.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get on the horse and go after the truck. He doesn't want to jump off the boat and get on the submarine. He just wants to go to the museum and drop off his treasures.
The Ark belongs in a museum.
In a museum.
Yeah. All right.
Well, let's go. Speaking of museums, let's go. We're gonna have a quick break, and then we're going to come back with our great interview with Mr. Marty Matulis.
Sweet.
Our very, 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 very special guest today is an incredible actor, but you probably haven't seen his face too much. He is one of the great creature guys. He was on Teen Wolf the series, Sleepy Hollow. You can watch him right now on Evil on the Paramount Plus. He'll be on Picard, and just, you'll see him all over the place because the guy is amazing. He's also a really good friend of ours, the lovely, talented, and beautiful Marty Matulis. Welcome, buddy.
He thinks I'm cute.
I know it.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thanks.
So, Marty, Marty, Indiana Jones. I guess now it's Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Wasn't it just Raiders of the Lost Ark?
When it came out.
Back in the day, we just knew it as Raiders.
Right.
When it first came out, it was. It wasn't until the DVD release in 2000 that they changed the title.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
and that's largely for alphabetization on shelves, wasn't it?
Yes.
Just keep all the sequels together?
Yes.
For all those with OCD.
Yes. Well, also, you don't want to be running around the store looking for...
That is true.
But so you saw it in the theater, right, Marty?
I did. Yeah. I think it was 8th grade or 9th grade. It was like right in the pocket for an amazing movie experience.
Yeah.
And it was at the theater each and every multiple time that I saw it.
Now, were you, when I went to see it, I saw it in the theater as well many times, but the first time my mom was like, hey, let's go see it. And we saw it in the little theater next to Montgomery Ward. And I didn't know what to expect. I was like a Star Wars guy, so I was like, okay, Han Solo's in it, but it blew me away, man. I mean, I had never seen anything like it up until then.
Yeah, unlike anything else, I had no history with anything like that other than, I was like a Disney kid and I got into Star Wars. And then actually I found out about it from a buddy in school who brought in, it was like a comic book adaptation kind of a thing.
Oh, yeah.
Initially. I'm like, what is this thing? What is this guy in a hat? Like, is this real? Yeah. And guess what? It's a movie. And then we went. It was amazing. It knocked me out of my seat.
Yeah, no, seriously. And I back then wanted to be a stuntman. So I was like throwing myself off stairs and dragging behind ATVs and stuff. Really, really bad influence on me. Like, did you do any of the? Did you ever get a whip?
I definitely had a whip or two or four. I think I would break them when I would try swinging on things.
Yeah,
because they were crap. You could $15 crap whips. They were like these. What do you call them? Like, just they were not official bull whips. Let's just call them. And the hat. Yeah, I definitely went for the hat. Never went as far as like the jacket or the man purse, but I would have if I could have.
I was so blown away by that as a weapon. You know what I mean? It was like so unexpected. I think Zorro had a whip, and there was some other guy that had a whip, but it was just like, it was so unexpected and such a cool tool.
It was a cool tool. Yeah.
It's the name of my band.
If you're going to have a guy named Indiana Jones, he's got to have a cool tool or two.
Damn straight.
And I was unfamiliar with any of the kind of serials that they were kind of basing the thing on. So it was utterly unique for me at that time in my life. And yeah, and for a kid at that age, that's all I wanted to do was just eat, drink Indiana Jones. And
I think it's my mom's favorite movie. She loved the serials as a kid, and I think that's why she wanted to take me to see it. But yeah, I mean, it just went. It's just nonstop. Like, the action was just like the truck thing and the fight with the plane. I mean, what was your favorite scene?
I think to this day, probably the opening scene, because, I mean, how to introduce a character. Thank you very much, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yes.
Who is this guy? Where in the world are we? Immediately, we've got, as you said, set pieces of the giant boulder, the spiky thing that ends up spiking, what's his name, when they come back out with
Alfred Molina.
Yeah. What a great character. I mean, now knowing who Alfred Molina is, it's even more impressive that he was that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the opening scene, it floored me. I was trying to catch my breath, when they cut back in and he's just this mild-mannered teacher guy.
Yeah. Well,
he's like
the hottest teacher on campus, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Love me. Yeah, exactly.
Love me.
But yeah, I mean, we just watched it, and watching it again, it's just like, it is the perfect opening. I mean, the fact that you don't see him until he yanks that gun out of the dude's hand with his whip, and then it's like, oh, it's the most handsome man in the world.
But kind of like dangerous. Is he a good guy or is he a bad guy? There's a little danger with this guy.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I think people discount Harrison Ford as an actor, and I think his subtlety.
I think that would be a faux pas.
Yeah, because I think he really is one of the greatest actors. The scene, one of my favorite scenes, is when he's all banged up on the boat, and trying to like nurse his wounds. You've never seen anything like that either. Like the hero being
right. Yeah, completely fallible hero. He bleeds. He hurts. Like he experiences pain, even though he's doing these nearly heroic superhuman things.
Right.
There's a cost.
Yeah.
There was a big cost continually, and that made it so much more exciting and more real. It's like, oh well, I hurt when I throw myself off things, and he hurts, so I'm kind of like him now.
Exactly. He's mortal. He bleeds. He cries out when you smash him in the face with a mirror.
Very loudly.
So loud you can hear it 22 ships away the ocean.
And her response is, "Did you say something?"
Yeah, I think they used a donkey bray as the sound effect. Now, is this your favorite movie?
Now, that's a hard thing to say. I'm gonna say short answer, absolutely yes. But that is like all encompassing, repeat viewability. If there's like a desert island movie with an endless supply of sun to run the solar panel, to run my projector screen and my surround sound, absolutely. 100% right. I can pick that up anytime, any place, fall right into it, watch the whole thing, watch pieces of it.
Yeah.
Never gets old. It always feels fresh to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that is just like, where it hit me when I was a kid, that nostalgia factor. but it is just a solid action movie. And like you're saying, set pieces, every single scene is like its own little standalone movie.
Well, Adam was saying every scene has a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, it is. If you ever want to learn how to write scripts, you need to read the script for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, yeah.
Because it is literally every scene has a beginning, middle, and end. It has a denouement. It has action. Everything is literally its own movie. And because of the serials, I mean, they were trying to invoke these serials, these 15-minute serials.
Well, I mean, the biggest example of the serial was when Marion blows up.
Yeah.
And that was basically how so the serial would end, with the guy going off the cliff or the plane blowing up or whatever, and then the next, and everybody's like, oh my God, he's dead. And then the next
Tune in next week.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they show it from a different angle and he escaped at the nick of time. We talked about this a lot, but it's just like, but I mean, how exciting is that? I mean, and they really captured, it's just such a Saturday morning matinee ride, man.
Yep. I want more movies just to be like that.
Yeah.
It is pure escapism. It's pure joy. It was scary at the time. Like as a kid, there was enough thrill in it to kind of keep me a little spooked as well.
Yeah. There's a
supernatural element.
The movie was
got kind of creepy.
It was way more gory than I remember.
A lot of blood.
Like I was, like when you get shot in the arm.
Oh yeah.
Like that blood that flies out is so visceral.
It explodes.
Yeah, it's visceral. Well, that's the thing too. Is all the sound effects and the punches are so meaty and it's just like there's so much weight behind everything, that it just feels real.
I think that added to the appeal when I was that age too, because I was just starting to get into. Bantha Tracks, which was the Star Wars fan club. And they introduced like behind the scenes things, how they made it stuff. And to my mind as a kid, like I would eat that like candy. So I remember there were a couple of, I think behind the scenes little docu-movies that came out on Raiders. And that only added to the appeal, like hearing that the guys were making the punches by like crunching celery and smacking a watermelon with a wet piece of leather. Like,
it's like
more.
I think you and I kind of lived out our sound effect fantasies when we were doing Jedi No Ali, and we got to like build every sound from scratch, and we were just finding different weird stuff that we could use. You know what I mean? It was just, for me, that was just like, that was going back to like the old Star Wars times.
We did do that. Let's make another movie that's like Raiders.
Yes, I'm about the right age.
It'll really hurt now.
Yes, but we're still like 30 years younger than than Indiana Jones. Who's if his shoulder gets fixed, Indiana Jones
perhaps in another movie.
Bad bursitis. But
Indiana Jones and the Search for Aspercream.
Now, did you have a partner in crime? Did you have a buddy that loved it as much as you that you could share it with, or somebody in your family?
Joey Steichen. Joey Steichen was the buddy who brought that comic book to school. We hid it inside of another book, like one of those science workbooks.
That's awesome.
It was like our Playboy magazine. We hid it, we passed it around, we oohed and awed over it. Like, did you see that thing? We're gonna go again. We're gonna go to the movie. Because again, like I don't know where you guys grew up, but I had to travel to go see a movie. We had one little movie theater downtown in this little small town, but it didn't show everything all the time, and it was like E.T. forever, and then like something for the parents forever. So we had like a 40-minute drive to go. So it was an event. And saw it myself, and I almost didn't see it. My parents were under some misperception that this was going to be like a really terrifying, scary movie, and they're like, no, we've heard about this Raiders thing. No. I know more. We have to go. I eventually wore them down, and then Joe and I would go, and the theater, of course, was in a mall. So it was not only Raiders, it was go to the arcade, play video games, get cranked on sugar.
Yeah. Get your hot dog on a stick, or your cheese on a stick.
Oh, my God. Always an adventure.
Your Sbarro's, or what was it? Awful pizza place.
Sbarro's.
Yeah, was it that?
Terrible. Yeah. How many times did you see it in the theater? Do you remember?
Oh, boy. Well, even in recent years, when they trot it back out in Los Angeles, I'd always go to it. So I'm thinking certainly more than any other film, but probably a good dozen times in theater.
That's awesome.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, if you haven't seen it in the theater and you get an opportunity to do so, do it, because it was made to be seen on the big screen.
And it's beautiful. And in this day and age, I think it holds up even better. Just the fact that it is on film. It is gritty. It is real. The stunts are real. There's no CG in sight anywhere.
It's the
effects are awesome.
Yeah.
It's the dustiest film since like Lawrence of Arabia. There's so much dust.
So dirty.
Yeah, and all that. You know what I love too are those the spider webs, like how dense and thick the spider webs are, like in the beginning and also in the
Well of Lost Souls.
Yes, the Well of Lost Souls.
Yes, indeed.
That one.
Yep, beautiful stuff.
And we miss that. I mean, I think that's like, do you miss that? I mean, it was great when there were sets, you know, when there was chunks and stuff for actors to work with, and everything was visceral. You know, I remember going on the Congo set. It was like a rainforest. You know, they made a rainforest in this soundstage, and I think now, you know, it's awesome what they can do with like the Mandalorian and whatever with these. You know,
with the new stage.
It's super impressive, and the technology is great. But yes, there's nothing that can match the reality of some tangible set where you're actually there, or location. You know, the fact that they did travel around the world to get these.
If you ever want a good example of that, watch all the extras for like the Phantom Menace. And then watch the extras for The Lord of the Rings. The Lord of the Rings guys are so much more happy and so much more joyous because they were dealing with real stuff, you know?
Well, I mean, you know, I get it, but it's also as an actor, you want to play in that world, you know, and if you're playing in a big blue room with big blue, you know, tables and stuff, it's not as fun out, you know?
It's really sad to watch these capable actors just like standing on a green stage looking around with confusion on their faces, which reads in the finished product. Like they had really good people who didn't know what to do because there's nothing to land on.
Have you done a lot of green screen stuff, as you know, with the creature stuff, or do you get to more play within the actual sets?
So far, I think it's more actual set, whether out on location or built set. There's been some amount of green screen stuff that, ironically, they haven't used nearly as much as some of the set.
Well, I mean, I guess it would seem if you have the creature there, then put the creature, you know.
Yeah.
Luckily, you don't play a lot of, you know, you play a lot of guys that, you know, a lot of monsters that happen in the real world, you know.
Right. Yeah, I think one of the very first kind of green screeny things was on Men in Black 3, and they were taking this kind of traditional, you know, the big-headed alien thing, and they wanted to make a bunch of miniatures of it. So it was on a big green screen stage, jumping around all over the place, and it was kind of an odd experience.
Yeah.
There's nothing to grab onto. You know, you've got nothing, even visually, to let your eyes land on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That has to be so much more challenging. I can't even imagine. I mean, I'm not an actor, so I can't.
As you are.
Yeah, but not to that. I can't. That has to be as challenging as just the acting itself is like having to put yourself there.
You've done a lot of black box theater. It's the same thing, but it's painted black instead of blue.
No, that's a good point.
You know,
that's a good point.
It's like
Don't
it's
be
all
so
about
colorist, Adam.
You just use your imagination. But getting back to Raiders.
Yes, I remember putting a significant amount of effort every year into finding the jacket, and there were a lot of companies coming out with like jackets. I'm like, that's not the jacket. I know how the jacket looks. That's not the jacket. That's some dude trying to make it look like the jacket. Not the jacket.
There were
I never quite got the jacket, but I was really hot to try.
There are a lot of rip-off jackets, a lot of rip-off hats, a lot of rip-off.
They tried just doing like waist-length bomber jackets.
Yeah.
Like, no.
No, that's
Indiana Jones wouldn't be caught dead.
Now, how do you think he got his hat and jacket back after he rode the submarine underwater for 60 miles? Do you think Sala?
Thin ice.
Do you think Sala grabbed it off the ship from Katanga? He was like, "We'll give this back to Indy if you see him."
Well, that, how do you think he even made it on the submarine all those miles? Because submarines, go under the water.
That's what I know exactly. But you don't care. That's what I love about this movie is you do not care. You don't care that his body would be ripped apart if he was dragged behind a truck for even 5 minutes, but you don't care because it's just so much fun.
Wouldn't be able to get up and walk for 4 days.
No, because he wouldn't have any skin on the front of his legs.
He would just be a pile.
No, you got to allow it. You got to allow it. He gets shot in the arm and he goes, "Oh, what a day!"
And then punched like 3 times in the bullet wound, and he could still use that arm to throw the guy out of the truck.
Everything we mentioned is bringing up every scene, and I'm thinking, oh God, no, that's my favorite scene. Oh, wait a second, no, I remember this now. So you were talking about the dust when he's in the when he's fighting the guy on the wing plane around the wing.
Yeah.
When he gets punched and his legs go rubbery and he lands on his ass. I love the high cut of his legs going whoa whoa whoa, and then the low cut of him like coming right out from under him and whop right on the dust.
Nobody gets beat up better than Ford. Nobody
makes me laugh every time.
My favorite Harrison Ford thing is like it was when you see the cliff and that shaky bloody hand comes up and grabs the thing, and then the other shaky bloody hand comes up and he pulls himself up, but he does the shaky bloody hand reveal better than any other actor in the biz.
True. I've never seen its match.
Is there any parting thoughts about Raiders that you'd like to share to our audience?
There's not enough time in the podcasts to say everything that I adore about that movie. But from beginning to end, it's still it's kind of a perfect cinema, like pure cinema experience. I wouldn't say it's the most intellectual cinema I've ever seen in my life, but from a pure escapism cinema joy standpoint, and that little boy in me that no matter how old I get, I'm like right back there to be 14 years old. Perfect movie. Oh yeah. Well, that's something that Adam and I talk about all the time. A perfect movie isn't the best edited, whatever. It's a movie that you wouldn't change a frame. Right. And that's one that there's nothing I would change in that movie, because it's just, you're absolutely right. It is pure cinematic joy is what that movie is. It's like watching it, you just, you can't, you're not going to fall asleep. I don't care how tired you are. You're not going to like get bored and start looking at your phone. It's just, it grabs you, it grabs you, and it doesn't let go. Just like you, buddy. In a good way. I don't mean that in a creepy way. Spielberg was a really smart guy as well, in that he would hire these older, really talented guys to lens his films. If you look at that movie with a critical eye too, it's beautiful. Oh yeah, it's shot so well. The frames are balanced. The camera moves are really like not elaborate, but just stunningly gorgeous. And also, they just let it play. Like there's not a lot of cutting in that movie. There's that one scene with Belloc and Indy. After Marion gets blown up. They just stay on that one shot with him in the foreground and Belloc in the background for the entire conversation, which is so awesome. Like, when they're digging into the Well of Souls, they just, when the Nazis come up, they would have been, today, it would have been like, close up, blah, blah, blah. Right. But they just let the thing play out. Probably because it made it move faster, and it was probably, a lot to do with practicality. So much to shoot. It just... When you have, like you said, when you have a great camera person, when you have great actors, when everything is working, just let it play in the frame. Absolutely. I don't know where we got this idea, but it's certainly, even today, really prevalent how we got to just like fast cut. If it's action, it's got to be fast. Nah, the action is fast within the cut. Yeah, but I think it's insecurity as a director that you have to, let's put 40 cameras down. Let's get every angle possible, because then I can't make a mistake. But it's like, it's the ballsy director that one angle, that's it.
Trust. Right. It's all about trust.
And it's like, it makes you work for it, put the effort into getting the good result ahead of time, because you know that is your shot. You need that. And if you're shooting on film and your one shot is Harrison Ford turning around as a truck blows up in the background, you got to get that right. Yeah. And his little false step, like, what is that her? No. Well, I'm going to walk a little faster. No. Oh, he was very sad. Angst, maybe. Angst, pain, that guy, and humor. I mean, nobody can go from being funny to being angry to being sad. That guy wears his emotions like no other actor. It's just, he, to me, is the last of the greats. The last of like the Bogies or the... John Wayne's, or those kind of like larger than life movie stars. Absolutely. He's the only guy from our generation who got that, who was like a legitimate, solid actor, like a serviceable, is that the Swiss Army knife kind of an actor, Yeah.
That's why Tom Selleck is so mad.
Chapped hide every day of his life. But yeah, like I said, I think sometimes Harrison Ford gets a short shrift. But, when you really look at his movies, there's so much going on. He's just great.
Anyway.
Yep. Capable dude.
Yes. It will end on that fun note. Marty, thank you so much for being a guest. It's always fun to have somebody who's really passionate about what we're talking about. It makes such a difference.
I'm so passionate I don't want to go. Let's just keep going.
Yes. Well, we're going to definitely
Can I just move in?
Yes.
Can I just do this every day?
Yeah, come be on the show.
Be there every day, and I'll just show up. Like, I'll just pop in, okay? You don't have to wait. I'll be there.
100% we're going to have you back real soon. Thank you so much, man. And let us know what's coming up so we can plug you on the show.
Yeah,
Your work
please.
is amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. There are things in the works. I can only hint.
Of course.
Ooh, I like that.
Secrets. Woo. All right, buddy. Thank you so much.
Lovely chatting with you, gentlemen.
Marty.
Oh, such a good interview. He's so awesome.
Seriously, check him out on Evil if you get Paramount Plus. It's a fun show, and he's most of the monsters. He's playing a Jinn right now with a head of fire and no face.
Wow.
Yeah, it's creepy as hell. Yeah,
I got to catch up on that.
Yeah, he's a creep.
He's a very
not in real life,
friendly creep,
but he can play the creep like nobody's business.
He deserves all the success. He's great.
So it was made.
Yes.
It came out.
It came out.
It did remarkably well.
It was nominated for 9 Academy Awards.
Wow. Didn't win any of the biggies.
No, unfortunately. It didn't win Best Picture. Lost Best Picture to Chariots of Fire.
Ugh. I mean, no offense to Chariots.
Yeah, exactly. That was the first thing in my head. No offense to the movie. It's great. It's fine.
Yeah, but the sound,
but
it's so boring. No,
I don't sit down once a year and watch Chariots of Fire.
No, I haven't seen Chariots of Fire since Chariots of Fire came out, and even then, I was like,
I'll be honest. I don't know if I've ever actually seen it all the way through.
You're not missing a lot. A couple of guys racing, a couple of buddies doing some racing.
Yeah, okay. I did win 5 Academy Awards, won Best Art Direction, Film Editing, Sound Editing, and Visual Effects. Another win for Ben Burt. Before he did the E.T., but after Star Wars.
Ben Burt. He's the man, baby.
But it lost for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Cinematography.
Well, who won Best Cinematography?
That was Reds.
Oh.
The Warren Beatty film. He won Best Director, and it was nominated for a ton.
That was a good movie. It was, it was epic. It was an epic.
Yeah, and which is fine. I mean, and granted, obviously hindsight's always 20.
But again, don't watch Reds every year.
I've literally never seen Reds.
It's fine. You should check it out. It's okay.
I'll check it out. I like Warren Beatty, so I'll check it out.
It's an Academy Award-winning film. He won Best Director too, didn't he?
Yes.
Warren Beatty, right?
Yeah. But it didn't have the lasting effect like Raiders because
there's not 4 sequels to
Raiders. That's true. Raiders was released on VHS in November of 1983 with an initial release of 500,000 copies.
Oh yeah.
By September of 1985, it had sold over 1 million copies on VHS.
Yep.
Priced at $39.95.
Oh yeah.
So it people bought it.
We had one.
Yeah, I remember owning it. Yeah.
Wore it out. We had a couple.
By 1991, and this number includes also the 2 sequels at that point, it had sold almost 10 million cassettes between the 3 movies. 10 million cassettes.
That's insane.
And then in 1991, McDonald's did a promotional thing where they sold each of the movies for $5.99 a piece.
I remember this.
So do I. I remember I didn't have to get them because I already owned them, but that promotion sold another 5 million copies of these 3 movies. Like, it's insane how many people owned this movie.
Man, when I worked for Lucas, every time they would release something on DVD or
Blu-ray
VHS, well, Blu-ray no,
not yet, yeah.
But they would give it to us for free.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
So we would get all, I had like 8 different versions. And I ended up, they would give us a huge discount. So I bought the Blu-ray Star Wars and the Blu-ray,
all that. The good collection stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, oh man, those movies, all of them, all 4 of them. I'm sorry to the haters of the 4th one. All 4 of them are really fun. And it's also fun to watch Indy kind of get older, watch this guy go through that. I would have liked something maybe, in between 50s and 70s, but still, it's like, it's a story that can still be told with the same character, and I'm really excited to see what the next film is going to be.
I'm really curious to see what they do with the 5th movie, and if
they don't kill him,
they keep up
while they're making it.
Yeah. Well, I thought they were going to kill him in the 4th one.
Well, no, I mean Harrison
you mean
Ford,
for real?
Because they're ripping that poor guy apart.
Yeah.
My God, when they did Star Wars, they busted his foot. The door of the Millennium Falcon smashed onto his leg in this horrific
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, if you ever heard J.J. Abrams talk about it, he's like, I just broke Harrison Ford. It was like the moment. It was one of the first days. It was I think the first day that Harrison was on the set.
That's crazy.
And then he's doing a fight scene and he yanks his shoulder out. The guy's almost 80, so it's like
yeah. I mean, he didn't. Yeah, I had heard that it was like a normal thing, like it just happened. Like the last thing he got hurt. Yeah. I'm
Mikkelsen
very excited about it.
And what's her name from Fleabag? Phoebe Bridgerton.
Phoebe Waller-Bridges.
Phoebe Waller-Bridges.
Yeah.
It's kind of good cast.
Yeah, for me, I'm really hoping they keep up what they did with the fourth movie, which was that they're still progressing it in time.
Yeah,
because I want to see it taking place in 1965 or 1967 or whatever it would be at this point, because it makes sense, and it makes sense with the characters aging and all that. But it's gonna be fun, whatever it is.
100%. And the last one was fun, and they were all great. Nothing is going to be the first,
Right.
The Empire Strikes Back conundrum is very rare. You've got that, and you've got Lethal Weapon 2, and I think those are the only two times that sequels have surpassed the original.
Yes. I want to say there was another very obscure...
Superman 2.
Superman 2 is really good.
The Donner Cut.
There was something else.
Aliens. Okay, maybe there's a lot, but...
But Alien and Aliens, very different movies.
But I will, as an action-adventure movie, this is 100% the best. What makes him great is he's not pious about everything, but he is about one thing, and that is history.
History,
and everything belongs to everyone.
Exactly.
History is for everyone, damn it.
It should be shared with everyone because everyone should know
history. It belongs in a museum.
It belongs in a museum.
And hopefully someday our show will belong in the museum. I doubt it, but what a great time.
Yeah, what a great show.
Watch it again if you haven't seen it. If you haven't ever seen it, get your ass over there and watch it.
Yeah, it's really fun. It is some of the most fun you'll have watching a movie.
And you're looking at the last great movie star, Mr. Harrison Ford, in his prime, in his absolute prime, and in his second favorite role. First being Mosquito Coast.
Oh, yeah. That was a great part. All right, well, thanks for listening. We'll be back
with another round of our Spielberg July summer.
I feel like I don't want to get in the water.
I'm going to need a bigger boat. Like when a Spielberg... Mouth! We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming. Family Ties, already in progress.